If you've read the Da Vinci Code or seen the movie version, you're familiar with the notion of the Holy Grail. That's the belief that the chalice used by Jesus at the Last Supper survived through the centuries and retains miraculous power. Well, that legend's right at the core of the Da Vinci Code, but with a twist. In Dan Brown's version, the Grail is not a chalice. Brown imagines the chalice is instead Mary Magdalene carrying the child of Jesus. The Da Vinci Code is pure fiction, of course. Some people believe this controversial theory, including a filmmaker you're about to meet. And in a new documentary, he claims he may have found new evidence to support it. Elizabeth Vargas reports.
In 1891, it's been documented that a French parish priest, Father Béranger Saunière, found something hidden under the altar of his tiny church in the mountain village of Rennes-le-Château. Whatever it was that he found astonished him.
We don't know what he found exactly. By all accounts, he really found something that made this priest basically break with his faith and his church.
It has also been documented that it not only shook his faith, but for reasons nobody's been able to pinpoint, it made the poor parish priest suddenly very rich. And nobody's been ever able to explain where that money came from?
Absolutely right. But essentially, in today's money, he spent somewhere between 3 and 5 million US dollars, which is a phenomenal amount, staggering. And so where did he get it?
One theory is that Father Saunière was paid for his silence because he'd found proof of a shocking secret, that Mary Magdalene, known as the prostitute in the Bible, was actually married to Jesus, and that Jesus and Mary Magdalene had a child. That after the crucifixion, she fled with that child here to this rugged and very remote corner of southern France. That their descendants and their secret were protected in the Middle Ages by a group of crusaders whom historians call the Knights Templar. The legend goes that those knights returned from the Middle East with an enormous treasure, including the Holy Grail, that they buried someplace in the hills of southern France. The novel The Da Vinci Code is based on the theory that those knights also buried some sort of proof that the bloodline of Jesus exists.
3 years ago, I set out to investigate what some believe is the greatest cover-up of all time.
Bruce Burgess's documentary, out this month, suggests that he and another Englishman may have discovered the first tangible evidence that there is something to those theories and legends.
Found a bottle, Sandy.
In a series of caves around Rennes-le-Château, they found a message in a bottle they think is from Saunière.
Okay, careful of the paper now.
I think you're going to damage the paper.
We certainly are, but we're going to get it out anyway.
I can't believe this.
The Vers Histoire. I think that means...
Can I read you what he wrote? The resurrection of Jesus was a trick. It was Mary Magdalene who took his body from his tomb. The disciples were fooled. Later, the body of Jesus was discovered by the Templars and then hidden 3 times. Rome knows all about this, but they can't afford to let the secret be known. They threatened to kill if the location of the tomb was revealed.
Why do you think that Father Saunière wrote that? I mean, that could have been any crackpot in the past few centuries could have written that, right?
Yeah, of course, but the reason we think it's him is because the paper that this was written on, we've matched the handwriting to Saunière style with 2 graphologists, and the signature, these are signed confessions, matches the signature on his other papers.
Using clues from the last message, Ben uncovered a 4th bottle buried in the ground.
The parchments of Ave Bigo, the cup of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and the anointing jar. It basically seems to be pointing to that these 3 things might be here in this box, right?
Just tap it. Yeah, it is a box.
Burgess speculates that this is part of the legendary Templar stash that Father Saunière found and then reburied.
So this could be the first time in 100 years.
Oh my God.
This is the key.
I'm stunned. Because this could be
That is
the most important find, well, in this mystery.
I just want to hold the cup of
I'm sorry,
A cup of, if it is a cup of Jesus.
Careful.
Deep within another cave, a tomb and a body that they have only been able to reach so far with a robotic arm and lens.
What do you think's in there? What do you think of who that is or what it is?
I don't know. I mean, it looks like a Templar burial, but obviously we won't know till we get in there. But
it's real.
But it's real, yeah.
You can clearly see a shrouded corpse, and on the shroud is a red cross of the Knights Templar.
Who is it?
Well, there's the $6 million question. We did a DNA test. We grabbed some hair that had fallen off, gave us a Middle Eastern origin of this corpse. That's all we know.
But this could be anybody. There were lots of travelers from the Middle East.
I don't think it could be. Yeah, yes, of course, it could be anybody, but it's anybody who is laid out in veneration on a huge marble plinth, covered in a Knights Templar shroud, surrounded by treasure. Which is probably not how you or I are going to be buried. So I don't think it's just, this is the local baker. I think it could be a member of the Bloodline. I do think though it's going to move this whole question of Jesus and Mary, the Rennes-le-Château mystery. What shook the priest up? What did he find? How did he get rich?
If all this sounds compelling, wait a second. Because when the Da Vinci Code was published several years ago, we asked a lot of biblical scholars and historians about whether they thought it was true that Jesus was married. The majority thought not.
Everything that we have in church tradition suggests that Jesus was single.
Is there any evidence in the Bible at all, anything that educates us or tells us whether or not Jesus might have been married?
No.
Nothing either way?
There's nothing.
We also interviewed a number of scholars who specialized in medieval history. The vast majority told us that the Knights Templar had no particular connection to Mary Magdalene.
The idea of the story of Jesus as married with Mary Magdalene, it was concocted probably at the mid of the 19th century.
Umberto Eco, who has researched the story, has an entire room in his home that he calls his library of books about wrong theories, including books saying that the earth is flat. He says the whole theory about Mary Magdalene and Jesus has no more reality to it than a fairy tale.
The same than the reality of Pinocchio, a Little Red Riding Hood.
Why do you think it's legitimate?
Rennes-le-Château has been such a hotspot for treasure hunters. We knew the moment we found anything that people were going to question it and say, is this real or is it a hoax? And so we've done as much sort of scientific analysis as is possible. The pottery itself, the objects in the chest, we had dated by the British Museum in London. These are authentic, genuine, first-century items from Jerusalem. And so we were bowled over because, yes, we'd already, I think, established this wasn't a simple hoax.
But even if, in fact, these relics are from the Middle East in the first century, the time when Jesus and Mary Magdalene were alive, why do you think that proves that Mary Magdalene was married to Jesus? They could be from the Knights Templar who brought them back from the Middle East. Anybody could have brought them back from the Middle East.
Yes, I wouldn't disagree with you, and I don't think they do prove that Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene. And I think we've been very careful in the film to just put out what we found. I think they are credible enough to bring into a wider debate now.
Burgess told us they plan to formally excavate the body they found, but even he says he cannot claim his findings will ever prove the theories that have so thoroughly captured the popular imagination. If your discovery doesn't prove that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married, something that a lot of people still find preposterous, what does it prove?
I think it proves that the Saunier mystery, the Abbé Saunier mystery in Rennes-le-Château is real, that he found something that he thought was of momentous importance, and that he tried to pass that secret on.
An interesting twist to a controversial theory. Our thanks to Elizabeth Vargas for that.